The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by our proud sponsors, Rams On Demand, Seat Giant, Throwback Joe, and now our new sponsor, Kayvon Webster's new LA food truck, Vibe 305, from South Beach to Sunset. Hashtag catch a vibe. For more information, check out vibe305.com today. Now enjoy the show.
35-30. Robert Woods, first down 20. 10-5. Touchdown. LA.
It's a blinding line underneath the dirt down.
So it's Goff who keeps it. And Goff goes crashing into the end zone.
6th Street Bridge.
Aaron Donald almost beat the football there and comes away with his third sack of the afternoon. Not immediately in sack. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day.
When will you save me?
Todd Gurley, 20, 10. Gurley for MVP. Touchdown LA. And he gets gobbled up. Savage has to eat it as Michael Brockers picks up the sack.
It's picks. Nickel Roby coming.
He's decked by Eden Khan.
Touchdown! Brandon Cooks! Incredible!
For the first time since 2003, the Rams are NFC West champions.
Welcome back, guys, to another Downtown Rams podcast, episode 121. I am joined here by Skyler Burkardt after a huge win for the Los Angeles Rams. It came at the course of a 34-0 drubbing of the Arizona Cardinals. Pretty fun game to watch, although, Skyler, it's great to have you, but I think you have to admit, I don't think the Rams are quite at their, let's say, their final form.
No, thanks for having me, Jake, but I definitely agree with you. They're not at their final form. There's a lot for this Rams team to work on. Even though we're putting on the lights and shows here, we definitely have a lot to prove on going forward.
I definitely agree, man, because, I look at it, it wasn't Jared Goff's best day, and the craziest thing I have about, Jared Goff, last week, wasn't really thoroughly impressed with the way he played, has 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, has a pretty solid box score looking game. This game, he had that interception, but if you take away that interception, he had a touchdown, and he had over 330 yards. I mean, to me, that did not look like a 330-yard game, but I guess that's what happens when you have that type of scheme. You have those weapons. Goff is going to, I would imagine, he's going to be all ready to go. He's a little rusty, and you can see that, but I imagine he's going to be all ready to go by week 4, which is exactly when the Rams are going to need him on a short week against the Minnesota Vikings. So that's what I'm banking on. What were your overall thoughts on Jared Goff?
Jared Goff has a lot of learning to do, especially under McVay's system. I saw a lot of play action, which McVay's been using recently, which is really good with helping him with his reads, especially on that interception when he threw to Brandon Cooks in the end zone. He definitely could have threw that a little farther, given he was running out of the pocket. But if he would have floated that ball a little bit higher to give Brandon Cooks a better chance, that could have been a touchdown and completely changed what we think about Jared Goff during that game. Instead, he kind of threw a laser to Brandon Cooks and ended up being an interception that turned it around for him when they could have scored a higher scoring game. Throughout the game, we saw Jared Goff make a lot of misreads. He misses a lot of open receivers, especially Woods. For whatever reason, he's been missing Woods on a lot of deep routes, especially in that one where he could have had him in the end zone and just barely went over his hands.
Yeah, that's a toughie. It's tough because, overall, when you look at this game, the Rams dominated. I mean, there was not one point in this game. I mean, the Cardinals, it took them until the second to last play of the game to get over midfield. I mean, I've never even heard of that, but yeah, I just do not think at any point the Cardinals really had much of a shot. It was the Rams running roughshod the Cardinals. The thing is, though, Skyler, I feel like they left a ton of points on the board. And, that's not a big deal, when you're beating a team 34-0, but that can be a big deal if you're going up against the Minnesota Vikings team. Or next week, I think it's more of a test with the Los Angeles Chargers. I know a lot of people will, especially in LA, they'll be excited for that game and they'll take it seriously. I don't think a lot of Rams fans, or not as many Rams fans that should, will end up taking that game seriously, and that's a legit game.
There's no doubt about it. Like, playing against the Chargers, they have almost the same offensive scheme that the Rams do. They have a stacked wide receiver core. They also have a running back that can catch out the backfield and take it to the house any given play. Plus, they have that step back in Eckler that can really be a game changer and change the pace back. And Philip Rivers isn't no scrub, as we well know. He's one of the top quarterbacks in this league for a long time. Given his skill set and the weapons he has, this is a game we have to win. They have a talented defense, even without Bosa. So we got to take this game seriously.
Absolutely. I don't think Bosa's going to play. I mean, we'll see. But, I'm really looking forward to really getting a chance to see how this offense continues to grow, how this defense eventually is going to turn pressures into sacks. I thought Sam Bradford did a nice job of eluding the pressure, but the issue was that Bradford did not do a nice job of moving the ball down the field. Albeit he had drops. There was a couple drops for guys that weren't named Larry Fitzgerald. I think what it came down to was this offense that I thought had a lot of promise coming into the year. They're still trying to settle under the new coach, new offensive coordinator, Mike McCoy. I think this team, the next time the Rams play them, I think they'll be more competitive. I think this was kind of brutal. But you have to keep in mind, rookie head coach in Steve Wilks. They get rid of James Bettcher, the defensive coordinator. He goes over to the Giants. You lose Bruce Arians to retirement. So it's a whole new type of system and everything, and I think they're just getting used to that. There's still personnel from the original regime. So, I think, when you kind of mix all those things together, you can see why the Cardinals have looked like one of the worst teams in football the last 2 weeks. It's also early in the season. And I will address this because I know a lot of people are saying, well, as great as the Rams look, they've only played the Raiders, who are now 0-2, and the Cardinals, who are now 0-2. And funny enough, the Rams are one of only two teams in the NFC that are undefeated. The other one is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if the season ended today, the Buccaneers would have the tiebreaker over them because for the first overall seed because of the strength of victory. And by that, it means that they've beaten better teams, a.k.a. the Philadelphia Eagles today and last week the New Orleans Saints. So, I would say this. If the Rams were barely beating the Raiders, okay, I get your reasoning. If the Rams had to eke by the Arizona Cardinals at home, totally get it. But the Rams have put together how many points in the last 6 quarters? I believe it's over 50. It's 57, I believe, I want to say.
Definitely averaging over 25 a game. I
mean, come on. I get it. I do. But I just think this might be the best team in football. I'm going to come out and say it. I think last year, while there were ideas out there, the Rams could get hot at the right time. I mean, they were 11-5, so they weren't obviously a bad team. But there were thoughts out there that, the Rams could get hot at the right time in the playoffs and carry all that momentum from Todd Gurley and all that, where you could win a Super Bowl even though you're not the best team. And I think we can all agree, as fun as the Rams were last year, they weren't the best team in football. I don't even think the Eagles were. But, that was the case of the playoffs. But with that being said, this year's different, Skyler. And I'll tell you right now, I think this team, coming into week 3 next week, I think they're the best team in football. The Chargers have a legit matchup against them. I do think I wouldn't worry about it, but I would definitely take it seriously. I think the Vikings game, we'll see, because, the Vikings last year, they destroyed the Rams. Albeit they lost Trumaine Johnson, I believe they lost Troy Hill, they had to put Dominic Hatfield on Adam Thielen, man-to-man. That wasn't a great move, but, they lost Robert Woods in that game. So, it'll be a different thing, and it's also going to be in LA, and it's going to be on Thursday night. So we'll see, but, that's kind of my look at that.
Yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from. I mean, coming from the Cardinals standpoint, we shut down David Johnson. Everyone was talking so much hype on this running back coming into the season, especially after getting paid with that contract, and we shut him down and make him look like just a toy to them. the Rams kind of seemed like to play with them the whole game is what it came across to me as. It looks like McVay was trying a few new things on offense, and that's why it kind of seemed like we were coming out a little slow from the beginning of the game. And then the rest of the game, a lot we left on the field definitely was part that McVay was trying out new stuff to see how it would go forward to the next game. So we kind of toyed with our opponent, kind of hurt us and left us some points not scored on the board. And then again, going forward to the Chargers, I mean, we definitely got to play our A game because this Chargers an opportunistic defense just like us. So it's going to be a grueling battle to win this one out. And with these previous teams in our standings, I mean, we got a lot of talent in the NFC, nothing like we haven't seen in a while. So we got to be ready going forward.
Without a doubt. I mean, you know, I think it's funny because the NFC, you know, right now the NFC West doesn't look very good. It looks like it's the Rams division to lose. I know today, I mean, if you're human and you're a Rams fan, you were rooting against the 49ers. It's that simple. But today, after the 49ers won, and there was a really, really bad call, there was a hold on Quandre Diggs, and it wasn't really much of a hold. It wasn't really much of anything. And he ended up getting a pick off of Jimmy Garoppolo down 30-27. The Lions get the pick, and they're about to set up shop around the 15-yard line, right in the red zone. And then the flag comes in, and they said that it was holding, and they basically gave the 49ers a first down. And, I mean, the game was completely swayed after that. I mean, I know the Lions got a chance to have the ball back, but it was with no time. They were pinned deep in their own territory. That was tough for me. But, you know, I'll say this. After the 49ers won that game, all I was thinking was, you do realize it does not matter if the 49ers do, you know, if they continue to win games. Because if the Rams play like they did the past 2 weeks, no one is beating them.
No,
it's not going to be,
you know,
it's not going to be an issue. This is their division. So, you know, I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on. The 49ers are definitely improved, but that was a game that they easily could have lost, and they probably should have lost.
They should have lost that. Jimmy Garoppolo is not the quarterback that everyone thought he was from last year. He's making a lot of mistakes this year. He looks scared in the pocket, and he's making a lot of bad mistakes. That throw, he literally eyed down the receiver, and Detroit read it the whole way, and that's why it was that pick six that got called back. But Jimmy G's got to play better. If he plays like this, the NFC West is going to eat him alive, and he's going to end up fighting for the bottom with the Cardinals.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, I really like Jimmy G coming out of college, but the hype just went berserk. I mean, you know, can he just be human? You know, can he just do his own thing? There was a lot of pressure on him from the get-go. In his career, he has 13 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. So, I mean, he's not, you know, he's got 2,000, I think he has like 2,500 yards after today. You know, there are things that you have to like about him. He obviously has orchestrated the offense pretty well with the help of Kyle Shanahan, but there's still something just not there. And it's weird because he's like the star now, like where people have him in their top 10. And Jared Goff is so, because they, you know, he went 0-7 in his rookie year. He is so entrenched with that whole bust label, and I don't really think it's fair ultimately. You know, when I look at that, I kind of roll my eyes because, I mean, at the end of the day, look, Jared Goff, Case Keenum, Nick Foles, Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't care who you put behind that line. Greg Robinson was the left tackle. I just don't think you would have had successful football being played. I don't think it was all Jared Goff's fault, and I think because of that, even though, you know, he had a great season last year, he's off to a solid start this year, albeit, you know, I'm talking stats wise, Skyler, because I mean, obviously, you know, I think he's played average the past 2 games. I think he's really going to turn it on when he, you know, shakes off that dust from not playing in the preseason. But, you know, I just think because, and whether it's fair or not, he's been kind of labeled as that guy. We can't put him in the top 10. That rookie year. You can't forget about that.
No, you could definitely put him in the top 15 after his rookie, not his rookie year, but after his second year. And then going forward into this year, you could maybe even put him in the top 10, depending how he progresses going to the rest of the season. But it's really wrong to put him as a bust when a lot of quarterbacks don't develop till almost year 4. And for him to do what he's doing now is incredible. Look at Watson his second year. He's struggling right now too. And Goff actually improved second year. So, I mean, it really just depends on that quarterback.
It really does. And I mean, right now, look at who is the early 2-game MVP favorite, Patrick Mahomes. The NFL is so... I guess really what I'm saying is the NFL is so unpredictable. Jared Goff starts off 0-7, and then next year, all of a sudden, the Rams have the best coaching hire since Dick Vermeil. He takes over. The Rams instantly go from 4-12 to 11-5. Jared Goff goes from 0-7 to now he's going to probably end up as a career over 500 starter. He's now 2 games over 500 after this win. So, turnarounds happen. Crazy things happen. And I just think, people need to get ready because Jared Goff, this kid from Cal, he's still young. He's still growing, and he's still, getting better. And you've seen trends around the league. You see every year the Saints struggle early on. I don't know what it is. They always struggle early on. You see it with the Patriots. Like, they'll drop, the first 2 games or whatever. They'll lose to Kansas City in front of the entire country on a primetime game. Like today they lost to Jacksonville, and everyone will question, should Tom Brady retire? Are the Patriots done? And then they'll make the Super Bowl. And I just think, there's these trends. Well, you know what this trend that, could be? I'm not saying we know yet because we only saw Jared Goff start early on, like this year and last year. But what the trend could be is Jared Goff gets off to kind of a colder start than most quarterbacks, early in the season, and then really turns it on around the week 8 point. I mean, that remains to be seen. But I actually think, the Rams are going to get their best version of Goff, and it's going to start in week 4 and carry on, I believe. So that's, I'm looking forward to that. I think, the Rams have a lot to look forward to. The defense literally playing keep away from the 50-yard line for the entirety of the game. There's just so much to like about this team. I don't know about you, but I mean, that's how I feel.
It's so exciting to watch the Rams this year and see how much different they look. McVay's brought a whole new offense, it seems like. A lot of jet sweep motions going along where he's trying to confuse the defense and make sure that they're very disciplined. And if one defender is not in the right assignment or makes a mistake, that's when they hit you for those play actions, or they hit you for the nice quick screens, or even hand off to a wide receiver and they go around the edge and get, 20, 12, whatever yardage. I mean, McVay's bringing a whole new offense to the Rams right now, and a lot of teams thought they knew what the Rams were going to be coming into the season, and they're getting surprised because it's almost a whole new offense.
Whole new offense, exactly. And one thing I definitely want to point out, Brandon Cooks. Obviously Sammy Watkins was the fun addition that kind of came out of nowhere. The Rams really haven't had a big name receiver like that since Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce era, but they go out, they get him, and they give up E.J. Gaines in a second rounder. Well, I'll just say this before we even get into it. I bet the Bills wish they kept E.J. Gaines instead of the guy that just retired after halftime. But
no kidding.
but yeah, so I don't think the Rams won that trade at all. I was not a fan of the trade at first, and then I tried to like it. I was never really a huge fan of Sammy Watkins. I think Watkins is better than sometimes I give him credit for. Today he looked really good for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I guess he just needs to be in that offense that, he gets a lot of targets. I don't know if he can be that guy that, that guy that really just understands it's a team game, whatever. If I get 2 targets, as long as we're winning, I don't really care. But, that's just the way he is. However, Brandon Cooks is he's the interesting part of the whole offense to me, because I think you got somebody that has a chance. He's always been borderline top 10 receiver. I would put him in the top 10, but I keep saying that I just see striking similarities to an Antonio Brown. His ability to kind of, obviously he stays with the script, and he's great as a route runner, and he's explosive down the field. But I love his ability to improvise, because there was a lot of plays against the Raiders where he improvised. There was a time he got rerouted by the corner. I believe it was Nick Nelson, I want to say. Could be wrong. No, you know what? It was Rashawn Melvin. And he gets rerouted by Rashawn Melvin. Instead of continuing to go and try to, recover that route, he senses that Goff isn't looking his way. Goff has now rolled to the right. He's looking towards, the right side of the field. He's not going to throw across his body. He's not going to throw across the field and risk an interception. So, he rolls to the right. Cook sees that, and then he doesn't sprint over the right, because he's not trying to startle Goff, as he's going through his progressions. But what he does is he kind of low-key just kind of, glides to the right a little bit, kind of just blends in there, and there you go. He's an option now for Jared Goff, in case the other guys are covered. And what ended up happening was both guys were covered, and Cooks was there. I don't believe he made the catch, but he was there. So I see his ability to improvise very similar to the way Antonio Brown does in Pittsburgh. I just think he's very similar to Antonio Brown. And I don't like how people are so quick to write that off, because, look, Brandon Cooks is, 24 now, 25? Antonio Brown took a long time to become what he is today. Albeit Mike Wallace, Emmanuel Sanders, I don't know if Hines Ward was still there, but, they had guys out in Pittsburgh that kind of, pushed him to the back of the line.
Santonio Holmes.
Santonio Holmes, exactly. So, they had guys like that, and then Antonio Brown comes in, and he ended up being pretty good, and then all of a sudden he ends up turning into an elite receiver. Well, I think Cooks, even though he was with Drew Brees in the air raid offense, he was with Tom Brady, I think Brandon Cooks, now signed long term, is going to be a superstar with the Rams. I really do. I think he's going to end up. The top 5 conversation's tough, but I think he'll get close to that. I really do.
Yeah, I love the addition of Brandon Cooks. I was skeptical at first because obviously who doesn't want Odell Beckham at the beginning of the year when we had that rumor spreading around. But getting Brandon Cooks adds a whole new level, because he is Mr. Consistent for every NFL team he's been on. He's gotten over 1,000 yards, and that's a lot of dynamic to your offense, especially where he can run jet sweep. He can even take out the backfield if you really wanted to, but he can go down the field and make defenders have to chase him. He brings so much to this offense, and he's starting to become Goff's number one option when he's rolling out, and that's the receiver he's looking for. Definitely the Antonio Brown, like you said, of the Rams, and having him long-term and having a stable wide receiving core is only going to make Jared Goff better and open up that playbook for McVay to use.
I agree. I think he just fits better than Watkins. I think it's that simple. I think the Rams have the best 1-2-3 punch at wide receiver, and then you factor in Todd Gurley, who can basically operate as receiver, and then you have the best 1-2-3-4 punch. So I think the Rams are pretty much set at, with the weapons. I think it's funny because for years we heard, well, Sam Bradford's good and all, but he needs more weapons. Or Sam Bradford, it's not his fault, he just doesn't have weapons. And, finally, I'm just so happy we didn't go into, a season where we're like, wow, Jared Goff, he just doesn't have the weapons. And I think that's his issue. We never went into that. There was Robert Woods instantly. We went into the fallacy that people thought that Robert Woods was overpaid, which was a joke because, per the Spotrac, per the market rate, the market value for a receiver like that, 24 years old, he's barely been used, excels as a blocker, he's fast, great route runner, smooth hands. Somebody like that at 24 years old, you're going to have to pay at least 10, and they got him for 8. So, I actually thought that was a great move. Cooper Kupp, the draft pick there was really, really underrated. Somebody that just didn't end up going high in the draft because of a 40 time, So I think they just have a nice group of guys. I think, the Steelers might be able to challenge them, and the Chiefs might be able to. But, the issue with the Chiefs, it's Tyreek Hill, it's Sammy Watkins, and then Chris Conley. I mean, I think that Brandon Cooks is better than probably all three of those guys, as great as Tyreek Hill is. And then you probably go to the Steelers, and that's tough because, they have Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Washington. So that's an interesting one there. I would still give the nod to the Rams. I think they have the best, wide receiver, big three in the league, I guess that's fair to say. I don't know. I mean, can you name anyone else that has anything better than what they have?
Falcons are starting to get a good wide receiving core. When the Saints finally get what's Meredith back, that's going to be an addition to help them out. Bears are starting to get there. I mean, there's a couple teams on the fringe, but right now the Rams definitely have the best wide receiving core.
Yeah, I would agree with that. With the 49ers, I think, obviously, what's his face? The guy that everybody in, the Ramley wanted, what's his name? Pierre Garçon. He hasn't really panned out. But, they have Garçon if he ends up, turning into what they paid him to be, although he is older. And then they have Marquise Goodwin. I really like Dante Pettis. They have Trent Taylor, Richie James, Kendrick Bourne. So they actually have some pretty cool, receivers out there. And then I think, you could look at Philly, although, the thing with Philly is
they're overrated.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Philly is that Alshon Jeffrey was so much better, probably 2 years ago. I don't know. I feel like he's taken a step back. Aguilar was not, and he's a lot better now. So, that's added a lot. I don't know. I feel like there's a team out there that can really combat with that. I mean, I guess the Vikings, because they have Diggs and Thielen.
And Treadwell's actually starting to produce this year, too.
Yeah, so that's a legit... You can make an argument for that. I'm trying to think
You
of
could say the
one.
Packers
Well,
with Adams and Allison and Randall Cobb, even though Cobb's a little bit older.
Yeah. You could also look at the Giants. Odell Beckham Jr., Sterling Shepard, and I really like... I don't know how much he's going to be able to get because Eli can't get the ball out of his hands without getting hit. But Cody Latimer, I really like that, as well as I think the Broncos have a lot with Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, and then you look at the fact they got Cortland Sutton and
I so wish the
Deshaun
Rams
Hamilton.
got him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot around the league. I know I'm missing one. I know I'm missing one. The Falcons as well with Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, and Calvin Ridley.
You could say the Browns. That might be the team you're looking for because they do have a good wide receiving core with Callaway, Jarvis Landry, and then they just lost Josh Gordon, which, that would have gave them over the top. But with that, I mean, they still have a good wide receiving core.
Yeah, they have Rashard Higgins, and then they got Damian Ratley out of Texas A&M in the draft, as well as Antonio Callaway. So, they have a good one. I like Miami's. I'm not saying it's like a hot shot, but Devontae Parker.
It needs a better quarterback to take it to the next level.
Yeah, well, they can't go air raid with Tannehill. Tannehill's a game manager. I think he's a good game manager, but they don't have a guy that can really go deep and take advantage of the fact they have Kenny Stills, they have Devontae Parker, they have Albert Wilson, Danny Amendola, and Jakeem Grant. So they do have a ton of guys there actually. And then I just can't help but think I'm missing one more. Like,
you can see the Ravens. I mean, with Crabtree added now, they also got from the Cardinals. What is his name? I cannot remember. But they have a very underrated wide receiving core, and their tight ends are really good too. Hurst is now on there as tight end. So, I mean, they have a good passing offense, and we'll have to see, how good it really is because Joe Flacco needs to play better for them to really take it up to the next level.
Yeah, no, it's tough because we're naming teams, but we're naming teams that have a legitimate argument. We're not saying that they have a better receiver group
Yeah.
than the Rams. It's kind of hard to pick because, I mean, obviously I wouldn't have a team like the Bills. I don't even know who is catching balls for them now since
Benjamin is the only name you can even think of at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked Andre Holmes back when he was young, but now it's kind of like he's 28, and that size-speed combination gets a little overrated in this league. You have Bills fans. I saw this on Twitter. They're like clamoring for Rod Streeter. So it's like if you think have it bad, Bills fans are clamoring for Rod Streeter. He's a receiver that he looked like he could be something for the Raiders early on in his career and then kind of fizzled out. That's kind of an idea of what you're looking at. But I guess, the Bengals, AJ Green, if John Ross ever becomes anything, John Ross, and then they have Cody Core and Tyler Boyd. So they have some guys as well. And again, I know I'm missing a team. I've pretty much named all of them, but moving on, I think we're talking a lot about the core guys, but we didn't really mention much about the defense. And the defense has really been impressive. I think the weak link there, I think we can all agree, is Ramik Wilson. But Ramik Wilson, in a game where the Rams win 34-0, the Cardinals get up past the midfield mark, second to last play of the game. I don't think Ramik Wilson was a backbreaker in this game. And, if he's your weak link, I think you're okay. He's just not as athletic, doesn't allow you to really play like, somebody like Deion Jones that can run all over the field, or even Corey Littleton who's on the team. They don't have two Corey Littletons. I'd be really interested in checking out Micah Kaiser. I think he offers more. Wilson's just kind of, he's average to kind of like solid at times, but I still think, the way he graded out last week was really disappointing. And it's why you see a lot of Marquis Christian. And I'm really impressed with the way Marquis Christian has developed, being just a waiver claim right before the Arizona Cardinal game. The Cardinals lose him, and it's like they were trying to stash him on the practice squad. That was a legitimate thing they were trying to do, and the Rams were like, oh, we're going to swoop in there, we're going to grab him. Puts him on the active roster. I believe that was, 2015? And he's been on the team ever since. Might be 2016, but yeah, he's been on the team ever since. 5th rounder from Midwestern State that the Cardinals drafted, and now he's been a Ram ever since. And the Cardinals are never getting him back because I think he might be replacing LaMarcus Joyner in the near future.
Why are we not talking about John Johnson enough? I mean, this guy's been all over the field. He's been, in comparison, the Tyrann Mathieu. There's other safeties you can compare him to, but he's getting tackles in the backfield. We're using him on blitzes. He's great in coverage. I mean, he was amazing last year, and it seems like he only got better this year.
Yeah. No, I agree. I really like the way he was able to play at the line of scrimmage. He made a really nice play. I think it was on Ricky Seals-Jones. Instantly was in his face, made the nice tackle. He's really improved his tackling. The Rams really liked his versatility. Everything I heard from, all the analysts and so forth, John Johnson, they loved his versatility. They loved his ability to play corner or safety. It's funny, they really haven't used him at corner. He's been really a safety that can play in the box, or, he can kind of roam. He's got that underrated ability to kind of roam in center field if he has to. So can LaMarcus Joyner. I think they're pretty interchangeable. I think you could play John Johnson at free safety, and I think you could play LaMarcus Joyner at strong. That's what makes the Rams kind of scary, is that they have a really nice looking back end of the secondary. They have, you saw Sam Shields, the 4th corner on their roster, come in. He gets the pick. They have so many playmakers across the board. John Franklin Myers coming in on, pass rushing downs and all that. It's just, I think there's so much there for Wade Phillips. Now he has all his toys. I just think the sky's the limit, really, for this team. And I think we're going to see that over the course of time.
No, definitely. He finally got his toys, and all of them are interchangeable. If someone gets hurt, granted, the big names, I mean, there's a lot he can just switch in. They can plug and play and still be just as effective. And even when we were playing against Arizona, having Sue and Donald was incredible because they each took a double team almost, and that opened up for other people to get the blitz or even get the single to then go after Sam Bradford and get him out of the pocket. I mean, there was so much our defense could do. It was hard for Sam Bradford to stay comfortable in the pocket. He was constantly being rushed out of it. And then even David Johnson, I mean, we were hitting him in the backfield almost every play, and there was nowhere for the Cardinals to really go. And this defense isn't even halfway to being warmed up yet.
I totally agree with that. And, the funny thing is, I just think, people don't realize, I know last week it was, we didn't really hear Aaron Donald's name that often. The Rams won by 20. But Aaron Donald, Ndamukong Suh, Michael Brockers, John Franklin Myers, those guys, Samson Ebukam, they get these pressures on the quarterback, and their throw means absolutely nothing because they're getting rushed. Bradford throwing off his back foot. We saw it a lot in St. Louis. It doesn't go very well. Bradford hurried doesn't go very well. This is somebody that faced literally no pressure at Oklahoma coming out of college. That was one of my biggest red flags about him. Everyone really talked about his pinpoint accuracy and his pocket presence. It's I don't want to crap on the guy because I was a fan of his, but what pocket presence? You never really faced, any bit of pressure because he had just an all-American offensive line. And then he comes to the NFL, I thought he was a little shell-shocked when he got thrown into St. Louis, and you kind of see that, you don't have that offensive line anymore, Sammy. But no, this offensive line for Arizona, they were clearly missing their right tackle. Mason Cole, as fun as he is, and I think he is going to be really good at some point, his versatility allows him that. Rookie centers just don't often do well, especially when they're going up against Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Donald, Michael Brockers. It just doesn't work very well. So, I thought that had something to do with it, but you can't take anything away from this team. They came to play. They really, again, they didn't get the sacks, but how many pressures did they get on Sam Bradford? And how many different holding calls did they draw? Skyler, I've talked about this with tons of Rams fans, my father included. There needs to be a stat for somebody like Aaron Donald that forces a team to hold him. I mean, you are creating a penalty, and which is in turn pushing the offense back and pushing the defense forward, if that makes any sense. So I almost feel like that should be a stat.
It should be, and we saw in the Raiders game. The Raiders had so many penalties, and it just kept going back and back just because of the presence that Aaron Donald was making and Ndamukong Suh. Even with the Cardinals, we saw a little bit of it, but just that presence can scare an offensive lineman just to jump off sides because they want to get that first step back to be ready for what's coming at them.
Of course they do, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I'm just really impressed with the way these young guys have they've stepped up to the plate. I mean, there's so much criticism, so much. Well, they're linebackers I've never heard of. Well, their edge guys need upgrading. The Rams have the cap now to go out and get somebody if need be, but I don't think they need anybody. I think that rotation of Matt Longacre and Dom Easley and Samson Ebukam and I just think, their edge guys are playing well. I think their linebackers, I think their linebacker, Corey Littleton, has played well. I think they've got some great production out of Marquis Christian, who has been able to play in the linebacker spot. The back end of the secondary looks great. It's just really what it comes down to is today was one of the easier matchups for Marcus Peters or an Aqib Talib. Because whoever got Larry Fitzgerald, that was who had to work today. Aside from that, it was pretty much Chad Williams, not proven, wasn't able to gain any separation whatsoever, no matter who was on him. They ended up cutting Bryce Butler. So, they have Christian Kirk, who they wanted to operate in the screen game, and I thought that worked to a degree. I mean, you get a missed tackle, he's a little slippery in space, can get going, but I thought they held him in check pretty well, seeing as they didn't get past the 50 until the second to last play of the game. But I thought, Larry Fitzgerald, I thought they held in check pretty well, but that was really the only one. Larry Fitzgerald is a Ram killer. He comes every single game, it seems like he goes off against the Rams. The last 2 meetings, they've held him in check. I don't have the stats in front of me, but, this game, he was not really able to do much. He was able to extend that unbelievable streak of, catching a pass in every game. Every game, I think it's like 200, over 200 something now. That's crazy, Skyler. Like, I can't imagine having that, streak of catching one pass per game, because we see it all the time, like story of the game, this guy got shut out. And it doesn't necessarily mean you didn't get open. Sometimes you don't have the quarterback that can get it to you.
Yeah, it's second all-time behind the great Jerry Rice. That's a big number to be up against. And for the Rams to be able to shut down one of the greats to only 3 receptions for 28 yards, that's a lot, because that's their offense, especially when they can't get David Johnson going. They have to get Larry Fitzgerald going. And to shut him down for that low of stats and just take the offense away completely out of the game, that's big for the Rams. They didn't have that defensive presence the last couple of years. Granted, we were still beating the Cardinals pretty bad the last, more recent years, but now we're seeing complete domination. And it's time for the Rams to take it to the next level, continue it on, and stay healthy, because that's why we opened up that cap space, was in case of injuries. And especially like what we're going to talk about here in a moment with Greg Zuerlein, what are we going to do? We have to fill that space in. That's why we moved this cap to occur for injuries.
It's definitely going to be something to watch. With Zuerlein, it depends on how severe is this thing. Normally it doesn't even need to be severe. If you're a kicker, I'm sorry, you get placed on IR on the smallest of things. However, this is Greg Zuerlein. This is a legit weapon. He was making a run for the record for most points in a season, individual player, until he got hurt last year. But, this is the second injury. He had the back injury. It looks like that's good. He hurts his groin pregame. We're hoping, it could be something that it's just bothered him. They didn't want to chance it. They felt like, maybe they didn't want to be necessarily disrespectful, but they didn't feel like they needed him, I guess, against Arizona. And they didn't. Let's be real here. They really didn't. But, I just think there is a good opportunity for somebody like, a Sam Ficken, who kicked for them in the playoffs. I would also say the guy that literally doesn't have an NFL job right now, that should, Dan Bailey, he's available. And I think Dan Bailey probably makes the most sense if Zuerlein's out for the year. If Zuerlein's out for the year and they're willing to IR him, Dan Bailey makes the most sense. He's the most accurate kicker in NFL history. But if Zuerlein is kind of like on this 1 to 2 week skid where like he probably will play, week 5, I think the Rams are signing Ficken, no doubt, because they can cut Ficken, and it's not, the thing with, the thing with Dan Bailey. Bailey's not going to sign to a team that doesn't want him long term, and I think that's why I would definitely expect Sam Ficken to be the option if it's a short term injury. But if the Rams IR Zuerlein, then you're definitely going to see, I think you'll see a play for Dan Bailey.
Yeah, Ficken understands that. He came in last year and did that for us, and Bailey's an established veteran. He knows what he's capable of. He's not going to get us those deep yard field goals like Zuerlein would get us, but if we need a field goal, he's going to be there and be able to make it for us in case, we need points on the board.
Yeah, of course. I think it's not a huge deal. I think the Rams will figure it out. Sam Ficken isn't all that bad. He just takes away the really long field goal that in games like the Minnesota Vikings, the Eagles, the Packers, I think they will be necessary. But no, I think one of the biggest things that could have happened for the Rams, was the injury of Pharaoh Cooper. I thought that could be something to, bite them, because he did have them finishing on an average of the 31-yard line was where he was they were starting drives. He was really good last year, and he was a weapon for them. Now he gets hurt. What happens? Well, I don't know. This JoJo Natson kid is pretty good, and we said that in preseason. I think every Rams fan would be in agreement. JoJo Natson should have probably made the roster. Maybe over Mike Thomas. He just was really impressive, and it's kind of hard to get rid of somebody like that also showed his ability in the passing game. Then again, it's also hard to, keep 6-7 wide receivers, but then again, the Rams also kept 3 quarterbacks. So, to make a long story short, I think JoJo Natson was a winner in this game. Winner not only for himself, but I think the Rams win big with JoJo Natson's performance. What you saw wasn't anything that is like, oh, that was a fluke. Like, you saw he just took off and ran. There was no hesitation. There was no dancing. He runs. And we saw that in preseason. It carries over the regular season. So, I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to JoJo Natson. And I'm going to say this. It's kind of crazy. He's more explosive than Pharoh Cooper. I think he might have a chance to stay on this roster for the foreseeable future. I'm not saying Cooper's gone, because Cooper, I think, is the 4th receiver when healthy. I think he's more valuable than Josh Reynolds at this point. I think Reynolds' height is great and all, but, it seems like he's injured. He's got some drop issues. I don't think he moves as fluidly as somebody like, Pharoh Cooper that could be, used in the backfield. He can be used in slot. So, with that being said, I think JoJo Natson could end up being at least one of the return guys, maybe designated as a punt returner. I don't know. What's your take on that?
I agree with you. I mean, in the article earlier I posted this year, I said that on the bubble was definitely going to be Josh Reynolds and Mike Thomas. And I was really surprised when we saw that we kept Thomas again, when there was a lot of talent we had on the when we were off season, that we definitely could have kept and brought some new fresh blood into it. So I think JoJo Natson being added on is great. I mean, he could develop into a better receiver. He may be the smallest one, so it'll be another kind of Tavon project, but maybe we know how to use him better. But at least with special teams, we have a second special teamer to work with the rest of them. So, I mean, I love having him. It was exciting to see our special teams performing at a high level today, and we definitely need it with John Fossil.
Yeah, of course. And like I said, I think the Chargers, the Vikings, the Packers, those games, what this game is to me, you go in here, obviously, they're not going to say they know they're going to win, but it's one of those games where you kind of just know you're going to win. And you go into this game and you want to really just put your best foot forward to kind of prepare you for the future. Obviously you want to win every game convincingly. You want to win it strong. They were able to work on some things in this game. They were able to develop some serious chemistry, I think, Jared Goff and, Brandon Cooks have. I don't know why during the broadcast they raved about Jared Goff's throw to Brandon Cooks, which was clearly underthrown. Brandon Cooks has that touchdown if it's put out in front of him, but they were like, oh, what a phenomenal throw by Goff. It's like, yeah, it's great. When Cooks has to, run back 10 yards and
did you hear what the announcer said during that game? He even said, "Oh, such a beautiful throw by Goff," and Brandon Cooks had to come back and get it. Like, he was dead serious. I'm like, how is that a good throw? He has to be leading him down the field. That's a touchdown for Brandon Cooks. Easy. You can't be beating around the bush with this with the announcers. It was insane.
It was hard to watch because I'll tell you, a little secret. So I went to this place I always go to. It's called the City Sports Grill. It's in Clifton Park. And, I went with, my family and whatnot, like we always do. We get the big screen TV pretty much every week since they're on at 4. And we have a bunch of Steelers fans that, they're always there every week, loyalty and everything. So they always get the Steelers game, for the 1 o'clock. So, we're waiting. Rams game comes on. Little do we know that the audio's behind. So,
oh no.
So the thing that happens with that is that you really get to magnify how good or bad the announcers are, because you are hearing it before you see the play. So essentially we were hearing, Todd Gurley, that one call, he ran a touchdown in, okay? It was right before the half. And Dick Stockton, or I can't even say his name, Stockton, says something like, and Gurley gets the handoff, and he could have gone for 20 yards more. excuse me, is it a touchdown or not? Like, and then, you know, the play comes through and you see it and it's a touchdown and you're like, that was one of the worst calls I've ever heard for a touchdown.
It was
like,
11-yard touchdown. I remember that. And he said that. I'm like, there's nowhere else he could have gone. It was 11 yards to the end zone. He couldn't have gone 20 yards more. That's the end of it.
It's the same guy. I mean, I'm not trying to like hate on anybody. That's not what I do. I actually
everyone makes
respect
mistakes.
all these guys, but man, it was hard to listen to them. I mean, there were times, you know, going back to the Jaguars-Rams game last year, the Jaguars, like that really bothered me. But you know, those are little things like, you know, people say things differently. What I can't stand is when I hear, you know, Danny Amendola when it's Cooper Kupp. Or I hear, you know, someone posted on Twitter, I forget what it was Jared Cook threw the ball.
I remember that. Oh, my goodness.
You know, I get there's, you know, mishaps here and there, but it's like, why? Like, why are you saying that? Like, repeatedly, too. Like, you know, you can't have that many mishaps and then not go back and say, oh, sorry, that's actually, like, you're getting corrected before you even say, you know, your next line, you're getting corrected by some fan at home because they know, you know, more about that than, you know, necessarily you do. So, yeah, you know, overall, I think stock up, stock down. I think we could do stock up the Rams, stock up JoJo Natson, stock up Brandon Cooks, stock up Wade Phillips, stock up defense, stock up offensive line, which just continue to just roll through people. Austin Blythe is just a monster. I really think, I said last week, I think the Rams really have something in Austin Blythe, a former 7th round pick for the Indianapolis Colts. He was waived. The Rams claimed him. I'm glad they claimed him. So,
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I mean, even with Brown back, what are we going to do? I mean, offensive line is stable right now, and then Jamon Brown comes back. Granted, he's super talented and good, but what are we going to do with him when he comes back?
It's a really good point. I mean, you know, I don't really know. I don't really know what we're going to do when he comes back. But, you know, I saw John Sullivan was shaken up, and, you know, that was a little worrisome. Luckily, the Rams have so much depth at center. Jamon Brown will come back this week, unless they try to trade him or something. But, yeah.
Giants could use him.
Well, yeah, the Giants could definitely use him. I think, you know, I have the game right in front of me, and I think some guy got taken off, you know, off the field on a cart. I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Patrick Omame or who.
If only it was Eric Flowers, would Giants fans rejoice?
Nope, there's Omame. He's good. And Eric Flowers, man, he's really bad. But, you know, luckily for the first time in a while, you know, the Rams have a really good offensive line, and I think that just adds to everything. I just think this team is clicking on all cylinders. I mean, obviously, you know, they can be a lot better. There are areas they can improve on. Jared Goff threw for 350-something yards, and even still, he almost had his best yardage performance, and even still, I thought he played pretty average. So that goes to show you, you know, the ceiling is extremely high. And this has to be the favorite to win the Super Bowl at this point in time. I'm not saying, you know, they will, although I have said that they will, and I predicted them to win. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, so stock up on all those things I said. Stock down on, I guess, Sam Bradford. I guess, you know.
David Johnson, definitely.
David Johnson, I would say stock down on Dick Stotkin. You know, the announcing crew. I'm hoping that the Rams now have like really good announcers moving forward because they're one of the premier teams in the league now. You know, they're turning into that. I know they stomped on 2 bad teams, but you know, I think it's pretty widely regarded they're one of the favorites. So that's all I have for you. Any last thoughts before we roll out of here?
Yeah, I had one more stock up. You were mentioning stock up and stock down. Robert Nkemdiche's actually playing this year for the Cardinals, and he actually looked pretty good against the Rams. He got a couple tackles, disrupted a couple plays, so that's really good for them as their first-round pick to actually start producing finally when they were really concerned with the last head coach if they were going to cut him or not. So I'm glad to see that their defensive line is starting to build and Kim Dichi's playing. And then, like you said with Jared Goff, I think his stock is just neutral right now. He's got to step up. He's got to make those throws. There's a lot of touchdowns he's left on the field with some overthrows or some bad decisions. That first game in the Raiders, he threw a lot of low balls to the end zone and was lucky they weren't picked off. Even in the Cardinals game, I didn't see anyone that could have been picked off besides the one that did. But, I mean, he's got to go out there and he's got to light it up like this Rams team is worth to be.
I absolutely agree. I think, again, really excited for the Chargers game. I like what I've seen, but I'm really excited to see what the future holds because I think there's just so much more out of this team. And I think the Rams now sitting at, atop the division at 2-0 for the first time since 2001. Arizona 0-2, 49ers 1-1, and Seattle, who is 0-1, has a chance to go 1-1 or 0-2. I can tell you right now, Seattle plays Monday night against the Chicago Bears. I don't really see that game being close.
I think Bears win it.
I think the Bears are going to crush them. I really do. I think the Bears showed you that they can stand toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, even in a game where Trubisky didn't play all that bad. Not as bad as everyone else is saying, but he didn't play all that good. He was kind of average. So
that last drive killed it. He had that game in the bag, but he missed a lot of players, in that last two drives there that he could have sealed the game away. But, I mean, he's so young and there's so much talent out there. I mean, he's only going to get better.
Yeah, I would really resonate with that statement. He's another guy that has some weapons there. Allen Robinson, if Kevin White, ever turns into
healthy.
He ever turns into that first round talent. And then they love, Anthony Miller. And they have Taylor Gabriel and, that plethora of tight ends, Deion Sims. They have Adam Shaheen and obviously the guy that everyone's really excited about, and Trey Burton. So there's a lot there. I expect, Seattle to go 1-2. Doesn't really matter because the Rams are going 2-0. It's already happened, and they'll host. I believe they'll host the Chargers. I don't remember where that game is.
Hey, it's all in LA. Either way, it's hosting someone.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. But I think that's gonna wrap it up. Skyler, thank you so much for joining me. For Jake Ellenbogen.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, man. For Jake Ellenbogen, he's Skyler Burkardt. This has been episode 121 of the Downtown Rams podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Take care, guys. Until next time, I will bring you I'll bring you a mixed bag next week, for the podcast. So just be sure to stay tuned. Take it easy, guys.